Joining me now to discuss the issue is Arizona Representative Andy Biggs. Hi, Congressman. Thanks for being with us today.
Hello. Good to be with you.
Thank you. So you recently toured the southern border. You met with law enforcement. Tell us about your trip. Tell us about the goal of this trip. What did you discuss while you were there?
Well, there's a lot. Most of Congress lives outside of the border area, so they don't really know how big and vast and wide open it is. So I wanted to get a number of members of Congress down. We had a total of 7 of us in this particular trip. Got to the border, got to talk to ranchers, local law enforcement, Border Patrol officers, customs officers, other federal agencies, all to see how the interaction is playing out, talk about the drug trafficking, the impacts of the COVID on this, the impact of cartels, and it was a great trip. And I do it every few months, take different folks down because they have to get you have to see how big and vast and wide open it is. Wanted to see where they're building new fence, where they're building replacement fence, and just get a full context and picture of what's happening on the border.
Well, and this sort of it touches on the topic that we've been seeing being discussed in Congress right now, police reform. And we know Arizona's Republican Attorney General Mark Brnovich, he's calling for police reform in the wake of George Floyd's death. He recently sent a letter to the governor and House and Senate Republicans saying that he was shocked by the incident. The AG is saying that he wants to push to get a regular de-escalation training and cultural diversity training for police officers. Can he count on your support for that? Where do you stand on this?
Well, that's really, in my opinion, a state and local issue. The last thing you want to do is federalize or nationalize your state and local police forces. But just so you know, when I was in the state legislature on multiple occasions, I introduced legislation to provide de-escalation training. I actually went through some de-escalation training. It's very intense, very important. Oddly enough, I couldn't get a single Democrat to either co-sponsor or vote for my legislation. And I think Attorney General Brnovich, I don't want to speak for him, but he is right. Certainly in local jurisdictions, this needs to take place. And the best place to do it is at the local level because each jurisdiction is is different in nature and makeup, and they have specific needs that they need to address. This is not a federal issue at this point.
Sure. And also some news coming from the Trump 2020 campaign. The president says that he's going to be kicking off his famous rallies. He's going to be visiting Phoenix on the 23rd to speak with mostly young people and students as he brings back these rallies after that 3-month hiatus. Do you plan on attending any of his upcoming rallies? Have you spoken with him?
I'm hoping to get there on the 23rd. Unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to be in D.C. where we've got some votes that are going to be taking place, and so I'll need to be taking care of my business here in Congress. But I wish him well. I think it's going to be a good event in Phoenix.
Do you think that it's a good idea that the 2020 campaign's asking rally attendees? I thought this was interesting. I was picking up a lot of debate yesterday. They're asking attendees to agree not to sue if they contract COVID while they're at one of these rallies. Where do you stand on that?
I get it. The trial lawyers are already out with their long knives in Arizona, looking for cases of COVID that they can bring suits against business or government. I understand the desire to get a waiver because people are making choices. If they don't want to come, if they feel insecure, they probably ought to stay home.
Well, then, Congressman Biggs, what do you think about the negotiations? Before I let you go, do you see any sort of middle ground that Republicans and Democrats can come to in regards to police reform as this debate continues?
Well, I'm struggling. I looked at the Democrat bill a bit, and I've read pieces of it. I'm not sure it's a good piece. I think it's, in fact, I oppose that piece. I don't really like the Republicans' response to that. I'm not sure that what we should be doing is taking a lighter approach. It gets back to what I was saying earlier. Most of these de-escalation training programs, most of these training regarding sensitivity need to be done at a local level. They need to be funded by a local level. And you've got 18,000 plus police agencies. The last thing I think you want to see is the federal government getting in and meddling and trying to hold this hostage, because both sides are talking about, well, we're going to mandate this, and we're going to say you don't get money if you don't do X, Y, or Z, and if you don't do it our way, you're not going to get funding. This type of thing is antithetical to really local policing. If you want to have community policing, which seems to work very well in many, many communities, the best way to do that is at local level.
All right, Congressman Andy Biggs, we appreciate your time. Thanks for talking about all these issues with us today.